I wasn't going to say anything, but I feel incumbent upon me, since Councilor Jackson wants to call out certain individuals for getting contracts. First and foremost, we're stewards of taxpayer money. We're entrusted with that money. For whatever reason you want to vote no, it is also your God-given constitutional right to hit that no button for anything we vote up here. We don't rubber stamp anything. But the spread difference between the first bidder and second bidder means a whole lot, especially when in a low bid process. I didn't do the math, and I don't know if Russell knows off his head, but those two contracts, $500,000 plus probably, they went back into the taxpayer coffers for a low bid. You use words like a moral message. I've used this, I get hit with this all the time. A relationship that I have with Chad Wilson, a good friend of mine, came to me before he was successful in business. Hasn't had a drink in, I think, 1,300 days. It's a lot of years. It's a lot of years that somebody, and he's still paying the price for that. Still wears an ankle monitor, still has to do weekends in jail, time away from his kids, but does a good job for the city of Wichita Falls, hasn't failed us yet. So if you want to send a moral message out there, I think the moral message is how strong of a Christian person you are. I had to look Chad in his eyes, and I've had to do this to other employees. I have several employees that have come to me, and I have to look in the eyes and see if they're done with the stuff that they were doing that was causing them trouble. Chad was a bad person. A lot of people ask me, why isn't Chad in jail? I have no idea why Chad's in jail. He had a forgiving judge, I guess, and a good lawyer. But that's not my position as mayor. I'm a steward of taxpayer money, and I'm a Christian. And it takes a strong Christian person, instead of kicking somebody while they're down, to wrap your arms around them. It takes a community to wrap their arms around somebody and do exactly what's happened here. Because Chad will tell you, if this community turned his back on him, or I as a friend, or somebody else as a friend would turn it back on him, he would go right back to drinking. So I had an opportunity to take a look at that man and really, more than anything, just help him in a business sense. He would call asking questions. He has several community members that he calls upon, when he has business questions. So, as my own father, my own upbringing, who doesn't, my father doesn't come into my office a lot and speak to me. But one day he came in there and he said, I'm proud of you for what you've done with the Chad Wilson situation, because I could have turned my back on him, especially when you're running for a position and you know that if you disclose a relationship with a certain person that might have 4 DWIs, that it might cost you votes. I've never cared about a vote in my life. I don't care if you vote for me next time either. I had to take a strong position as a Christian to disclose that I have a relationship with Chad Wilson, and that not a business relationship, but that I didn't want to turn my back on him as a Christian, and I'm glad some of the community members didn't either, and that he's been successful. And being successful, he's been very philanthropic. He gives back. I think, they had a program where we build, once a year, some contractors get together, we build a house. Last year we had an elderly lady. The police department went to this elderly lady's house. It was in such deplorable shape. There's nothing you can really do but knock it down and build it. Chad was at the forefront of that, lending equipment, lending hands. We donated concrete. We got people donating lumber and drywall, and we got this lady a house built, and we did the exact same thing again this year, and I'm sure he'll do it again next year. A lot of people don't know that when we had an elderly lady missing, Chad Wilson, you remember that? He was one of the first people to go out there and donate some equipment to go find her. Matter of fact, Chad found her. A lot of people don't know, when it came to raising money for a reward for a young lady that got killed over there by McNeil. I made a couple phone calls myself. We need to raise the reward because Crime Stoppers can look so high. One of the first people to dip down his pocket. He doesn't do that because he's trying to gain favor. He does that because he's a good person, and he employs a lot of people. So I didn't take a lot of offense, and you can vote no if you want, but I do take offense when you're talking about when you're having to read a pre-written message that somebody else gave you about morality. Okay.
I wrote it myself this morning.
Okay, so your pre-written message about morality, it strikes me, walking out shows what the kind of morality that we have. But for this type of contractor to come in here and be a good steward, and he's done some good projects for us, and I imagine he's going to do a lot more projects. And we don't take the amount of projects lightly. We want to make sure that we are good stewards of taxpayer money, and that we do stand by our contractors. And there is a process for people that don't do. We've had contractors that have burned us in the past. They have, and there is a process, and it's a lengthy legal process. But we don't disqualify people because of their past, and we don't investigate people, because I can tell you right now, I haven't run an investigation on the other 4 bidders, or I don't think anybody else here has either.
How is it that every time that he gets a bid, it's so much lower than anybody else's. And if there's 5 DWIs that he has, do you think me or you would be walking the streets right now? Absolutely not.
I'm not getting to debate during councilor comments, but I will tell you about the low bid process. It's about as simplistic as it gets. You get a list of items, you get a list of quantities, you put a bid price next to it, you add them all up, and the lowest bid wins. And that process right there is about as signed and sealed as it can get. There are no loopholes. There's nothing nefarious ever goes on with this. It's a legal process, and I think Kinley can tell you, from purchasing to time stamping to when it's read. It's open in public. It's voted on by council members. I mean, this process, and it's not. We have dozens of contracts out there, and coincidentally, Chad was a little bit on 2 that came before you today. Everybody wants to discount the other projects that Chad Wilson did not get, and he's not the low bidder on every project. But he does, come in here and he has a low bid. If he does it for that price, it's good on him. And it's not to say he might be profitable. I'm a contractor myself. I'm low bid on a lot of projects, and I can tell you, I walk away not making money on projects, but losing money. It happens. It happens when sometimes you look at that spread. Bid a job and I get it for $2 million and the next guy's 2.5. We're not patting ourselves on the back all the time. Sometimes we're worried that we might not be able to, get that project done for $2 million. It might actually cost me money. So I'm not going to dive into the finances of Wilson Contracting, but I will speak to the comments about sending a moral message to the public. Well, my message to the public is try to be a strong Christian and don't turn your head, don't turn your back on somebody that reaches out for you. You have an opportunity to grab somebody's hand and pat them on the back. I would say go ahead and do that if you can. But I also say, I always I have this opportunity not just with Chad, but other people. You look that person in the eye and you say, are you done with that mess? And if they are, then you help them out. If they fail you again, then you can turn your back and walk away. But 1,300 days is a lot of days not to have a drink. And I don't think he's through with his legal problems. But that's not our position as counselors. That's not my position as mayor to be a moral judge upon Chad Wilson and his company. My position as mayor is to try to be a good steward of taxpayer money, which I think by voting yesterday that I did. I voted today twice. But I don't blame anybody that hits that no button. I'll let you know that right now. If you want to hit that no button, hit it. It is your God-given constitutional right to hit that button. We're not a rubber stamp council up here.
Thank you, Councilor Whiteley, for voting no with me.
That's all my comments for today.